welcome. The Aussie Trainer Podcast, YouTube channel. Graham Doolan. I guess a little bit about myself is, if you're not familiar with me, I'm 30 years in the industry of window tint, paint protection, film, and vinyl wrapping. I've also spent the last 5 years or so training full time. So for companies like 3M, Avery Dennison, and now I'm with Luma, among some other companies that I trained with over the years. It's pretty exciting. I've finally set up my studio enough. We're still waiting on more equipment so I can actually do interview-style podcasts, which I keep getting hammered about on socials. Friends are saying, why haven't you done it yet? And the usual, got the usual excuses, not quite ready. But I did buy some new equipment that was faulty, so now I've got to go through the rigmarole, and that stuff is expensive, but go through warranty rigmarole. Now, today's video, I'm going to do some content that's really going to be around things I'm doing this year. I've already done a lot this year, and we've only just kicked off in March. So I've been to the US, Georgia, to see the Miller crew out there. And I've been to Houston. We went to the Tint battles in Texas. That was really, really cool. And to see Matt and Christina. So Matt, the tallest rapper alive, and helped wrap some cars over Christmas. So we also got a White Christmas in New York. That was really cool. So yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff that, I get to go to all these different places, sneak in holidays here and there when I do it. But ultimately what I get to do is travel around and teach people how to do things in this industry. I also get sent a lot of stuff. I get asked a lot of questions, obviously. That's my job. And I thought this is another way to reach, a greater audience. So it's I'm a bit slow in doing this. I'm a bit slow in general. I also am pretty excited to announce a few things. I'm going to be going to the Melbourne Motor Show. That's in April. Just going to check some dates here. Just got tickets today. So I'll be down there with the Luma and G Technique crew. And it's pretty exciting stuff. So it's 10th to the 12th of April in Melbourne. So if you're going to be down there, make sure you come and visit. That'll be cool to see everyone. It's always a good catch up, right? Networking, industry events, dinners, all those sorts of things where we get to meet other people that are in the business, but also with the end users. They ask about paint protection film in particular these days. It's very popular, very new to a lot of people. So I find that really interesting because I've been, the first PPF I've seen was in the 90s. So, but now it's becoming more mainstream, and I get to educate people on that, and whether it be people wanting it on their cars or in their buildings or, different places, and explaining where it goes and the benefits of that. But ultimately, this video is going to be about the events that I'm going to be at this year. So where and when, but it's going to be a bunch of questions about where I should be. What am I missing? I'm going to do the obvious ones, Melbourne Motor Show. That's going to be a big one. Jason from the Rap Boutique actually hit me up today. There was one called, excuse me while I look that up, but he did send it over earlier and said be there. But of course, it's this weekend. Performance Plus Expo at the Brisbane Showground. So hopefully I can make it up in time for that. It'd be good to represent Luma and the brands that, we help support, but also catch up, look at cool cars, and meet cool people. So bit of luck, I'll be in Brisbane this weekend. I'll see what I can do there. It's also, the next ones we're coming up are, after that would be in the end of May. We have Filmfest. I've put a little logo up here on the screen that actually shows, let me try and minimize this one. But what it does, it actually shows you, even Luma's part of the partnership announcement. So they're going to help power Filmfest 2026. Now, it's held in Georgia, right? So Atlanta, Georgia. And I have also opened that, so bear with me. It's going to be held, where are we doing it? You think I would have looked all these things up, but it's at the Gas South Convention Centre in Duluth, Georgia. So once again, that is on the 29th to the 31st in Atlanta, Georgia. Make sure you come to that. For any of the Aussies listening, man, make the trip. There's amazing prizes. But the networking, I've gone over with plenty of Aussies before, and I really feel like we miss out in this country about what we do with events. We don't make a big deal about them, and I guess with a smaller population, it makes it a little difficult just to bring people in. And there's people that have they pick sides and brands, and they get they're worried about that sort of thing. But then there's a whole bunch of us that actually genuinely enjoy just hanging out. We don't really care what products you use. It's more about meeting and hanging out with people that are in our industry. So we often look to do things in Australia, but it's honestly, it's hard to get the buy-in. So, we need to create the demand to do that. And I think if we all work together at putting that in, I really think we can come together. There's some other guys like Rain Garage. I see the boys there. They put some events on. They're a little bit more into the car scene, than what I am. So, in terms of, current car shows and Cars and Coffee and those sort of things. So they're frequenting those. I'm going to make more of an effort to actually attend those now. With all the travel and training, it makes it difficult to, always be at those regularly. And then when I do go, I'm just looking at cool cars, and I actually forget to make content and do all those things, so easily distracted. So, yeah, it'll be really cool to actually attend some of those, but actually represent the brand and show what, or represent the industry would be a better way to put it, and really put the time and effort into showing more people what PPF is. I mean, it hasn't even touched the hot rod scene or the modified car market. I mean, elite cars, supercars, all that sort of stuff really hit PPF, but there's, I've seen more family cars than I have hot rods that are just done in PPF. I've also got some other tips here. SEMA, the big one. So I want to go to SEMA this year. It's a huge networking opportunity, and once again, is to see the forefront of products. Window tinting is still evolving. We're still seeing other cool products come out, and really with PPF, the last few years from what's been reported has really been more about coloured PPF, where that's got a ways to go. We've seen some dry PPF come along. We've seen some wet apply, but that's a slow install and quite difficult. It's pretty tricky. It's just time consuming. But the products are still developing, right? They're still, these big companies and manufacturers are still pushing to find out what the best solutions are for those. So that's cool to see. I actually really look forward to see, the next evolutions coming through. The colors are insane. Some of these color swatches are coming out. The 60 colors, like when is it going to stop? How are you going to hold that much stock? It just blows my mind. But with shipping and drop shipping, etc., you can get it. It's a long delay, so it makes it difficult to sort of do any sort of volume in that regard when there's so many custom colors. However, clear and matte and black, they're the common ones that we're seeing on cars go every day. I want to get some data on that too, so I'm going to do a bit of research and see if I can't come up with some actual data, some physical data around how many cars on the road, have been tinted or PPF'd or vinyl wrapped. So, and what sort of penetration we're getting in the market. I believe it to be very, very low. So, but a lot of bro science there too, because I'm asking other installers that they might know, but yeah, it's a tricky data pool. One of the other things is tools. Tools is another big one that we go through. The development of tools, fundamentally, they're going to be very much the same. And however, good quality tools. There was a big surge of inferior tools coming out, cheap, which is great for development, I think, in tools and mucking around with different, techniques and we've gone even using, good high quality stainless dentist tools, which really come from the wrap industry that had adopted them earlier than that. They were they were looking everywhere throughout the world and what different things and techniques that would make them more efficient. PPF's gotten a lot of that, particularly now when how far we push PPF. It used to be a protection-only product. Now it's turned into this customization that really going to fundamentally push the limits of PPF. It's challenging when there's always edges lifting or failure points, or who's to fault that the cars have been overwrapped or the manufacturers haven't produced a good enough product, right? There's a balance between, glue lines and not enough adhesion and too much adhesion. We often hear that film's not matte enough, that film's too matte, it's not satin, it's too shiny, it's too sheeny. So to please everyone is an impossible task. However, leaning on each other and actually networking and spending time seeing what's on the ground and seeing what things actually need doing, what needs changing, they're going to be some of the key things to keep your ear in the ground and listen to what people are saying. So what else have we got? Okay, back to Filmfest. I'm going to be a judge there. So in May, I'm going to be judging the window tinting competition for automotive. Pretty excited about that. It's primarily a competition based around the cleanliness and professionalism in the window tinting industry. For all my tinters out there, you'll understand how difficult it is to get a consistently clean job. And then the rule sets around, we saw a shake up with the tinner battles recently in Texas that one of the guys brought out, or I think there was a couple actually by memory, that there was a lot of impact around the belt sander. There was a mini belt sander for shaving top edges. So that was pretty funny. It was funny to see it come out in the event. Now, having said that, we've sort of put some rules in place, which if you go on to weare-film.com, you'll see the rules and regulations are coming up. Also jump on the Facebook pages. Facebook is probably the biggest one in the We Are Film scenario. It's really going to keep up to date. We're often doing lives, and that's where all the updates come from primarily. So I would be looking at chasing up. I'm just trying to silence this so we don't get any more interruptions. If we look at making sure that you're logged in to see the different updates, the prize money. You can also win tickets. There's entries. We just had Tint covering the cost of, other people that were coming over. They also sponsored a bunch of installers to actually compete. So it's really cool. So thanks to Tint for that. That's really cool. What else? We've got... SEMA is a big one. I know I just quickly touched on it earlier, but I really want to spend some time making sure that we get enough. I want to get a crew to come over. The industry is a lot bigger than what you realize. When you're stuck in your own shop, and this goes for vinyl wrapping, window tinting, and or paint protection film. If you get stuck just in your own store and you don't get to go out and meet people around the world that are also doing it, I think you're really missing out. You're doing yourself an injustice just purely based on the fact that there's people like us going through the same problems that are more than happy to share solutions, for free. You don't have to sign up to, these courses or anything else. There's lots of people that actually just welcome you in and say, how can you help? How can they help? What things you're struggling with, whether it's installation techniques or even just running the business, general life advice. It's amazing the people I've gotten to meet in this industry. So rocking into a store on the other side of the world that does the same job and they're open arm welcome you in, brilliant. Absolutely love it. I can't get enough of it. I get to meet all these people and continue that friendship, and I also get to do really cool installs. Like I did a Daytona SP3. I didn't even know what that was prior to actually getting to work on the car. I sent it to some of the supercar nerds that I know, and they were like, man, that's a Daytona? That's sick. How did you get your hands on that? And I was like, man, got the invite. And that wouldn't have happened had I not, taken these trips and gotten out of my comfort zone to go and meet these people. So it's highly recommended, that you'll get friends for life doing it. And even if you're shy and you don't want to go out and meet all these people, just seeing the industry and how big it is, that's an important one too. So I think another thing to add on to would be, I did some training last week. We did some training, and Valerie and I we did 3 days of PPF and 2 days of Tint training. So what was really cool was some people did all 5 days, and that's exhausting. It's exhausting as a trainer, but it's also exhausting as a student to come along and, to take a whole 5 days off. And there were some business owners there that brought their staff along. So, we had a huge turnout. The guys that come in and really put in the effort, they were strip and tinting cars, they were wrapping cars, they were doing multiple things. We had guys that were doing installs, on PPF that have just simply never picked up film before. They hadn't seen PPF prior to that. And by the end of it, they're wrapping mirrors with, somewhat confidence. It's only a 3-day course, and they're not going to be, professionals in no uncertain terms without really putting, some extra time in. However, there's an opportunity for them to add that to their business, and there's also an opportunity for them to learn more and even pass it on. So, we've got a huge shortage of staff. There's the contractors have held, and look, I was a contractor, so not throwing any shame or heat over that way, but we could kind of, as a contractor, you could dictate the work, and the workload and the cost and everything else, and that was sort of holding a lot of shops to ransom, which leaves a bad taste in their mouths, when it comes to wanting to add it to the business. If they don't have any support or they don't have the resources to do the work, then what's the point, right? So then it just becomes this stalemate between contractors charging too much and then, not having staff to, support that business venture. So, I'm sure in the podcast we're going to get into a lot of that. It comes in ebbs and flows, though. I just think the pendulum's swinging back a little. We're getting a few more people that have, not being entrepreneurial so much and actually saying, all right, what responsibilities do they have as a installer, rather than just being a contractor where, they just drop their tools and run when it comes to doing any sort of rework. It's an important subject, but I digress. Another one to think about is I want you guys to come back and tell me what subjects or even what guests I should be bringing in. Obviously, industry guests are one thing. For me, it's going to be a whole bunch of other installers. They're my peeps. They're the ones I want to sit across from and talk for a long time. But I also want to talk to some of the OGs that have been around a long time, seen these patterns, still succeeding, adapting with the changes in the industry. I've seen plenty of tinners that are still just doing old school ways and not adapting new styles or even new effort into, rolling with it. I've recently seen guys retire that, they're still young. They've done great out of it, and then everything in between. So I want to get a good bunch of guests that actually really keep you guys interested, because it's easy for me. I could talk about this all day, every day. And as you can see, I don't even need a guest, right? So for me, it's an easy one. I guess that's going to be about it for this episode, other than I just want to give a shout out to the team at tintsignandwraptools.com.au. Aaron McCarthy has started, if you don't know him, he owns a business called Tint Effects. He sent me a care package when we were training, and it was a good opportunity to show students, some of the amazing tools we get. But I got a really special one as part of this crew, so I'll go through the whole gift. But Richard, so if you haven't seen this is Important Source. I'm a huge fan of this product. It's one of the interesting things, and myself included, I actually thought about what happens when we have, why don't we just use gel, right? It's a window tinting aid. It's another tool, right, to aid in minimizing contamination primarily. There's a few different things it does, which comes into it, but another one, it also works on dot matrix really well. So as window tinters, they're some of the challenges we often get. However, if there's loose fabric around the edges of windows, failing interiors, etc., spraying this around and anchoring it right around the perimeter of that window while still using slip solution in the middle, or your normal mounting solution, this will help hold all those contaminants out. And then even if they do creep into those edges, the contamination actually floats within the gel, right? The sauce, and actually leaves with it. If you jump onto Richard's Important Sauce socials, he recently did a video where it even took out a full-size decal, right? So it was pretty clever to use the Important Sauce logo on a sticker that was just sitting on top of a window, tinted over the top of it. As he was squeegeing it out, the whole decal moved with it, and I was like, that was pretty cool. I'll share it also on my socials, but it's a really cool product. It's actually cool to see, made by an installer also. That's another important factor, at least for me, because it's real world things, right? Richard making a difference, kind of giving back. It's super competitive, but now it's here in Australia. So it was always going to be a challenge to bring it from the US over here and still keep it at a usable, price range and make sure it's easy to use. Easy to get. A really cool thing about that is I was speaking to Aaron McCarthy the other day about it, and he mentioned that he covered over 40 square meters with one small bottle. So this is not even me selling it, right? I've gotten my own, and I'm yet to use it because I don't tint that often. But I sprayed it on the window. It's super thick. It doesn't run like normal gel would, say for PPF gel. It really holds nice and thick, but it also doesn't contaminate and damage the adhesive on the window film. So a lot of research and effort has gone into this. It's not just a rebottled product. So, I really think you should try it. Can you tint windows without it? Absolutely. Does it help? What else has it got written on here? Not dangerous for your children or pets. Easy cleanup. Contains no harsh chemicals. It's kind of what we want, right? When we're actually throwing it in there. So spray a light mist around contamination zones such as dusty old seals and frames, loose fabrics that are close to the window. It's pretty straightforward. You can look it up on importtintla.com, right? So straight from the US, really cool product, and yeah, happy to give Richard a shout out with that. He's not a sponsor. He didn't pay me to do this, although he can if he wants. But with that, so actually Aaron was the sponsor with that one. He's the one that at Tint Sign and Wrap Tools, he's the one that handed that over. He gave me this massive care package that I'm going to go through, so I'm going to leave it down here. This is sick. This one I'm excited about. All right, it's a 7-pack Pro line of PPF tools. You can see along the bottom here. It's in a cool case. Got all the bits and pieces. Nearly dropped it. But Fusion, if you don't know already, I liken it to the Snap-on of the tools world. They definitely throw down some really, really cool products. All their squeegees, which I got given this whole thing, which is really cool. So thanks again. Not the bulldozer, the back jabber. This is a good one that a few of us that have used them before, they were sort of the little scarab pads attached to handles, right? With that, on top of that, this little pad here is actually designed to go over the Velcro, and then it's a clay bar. So people, clay barring to Mr. bars. That makes it a hell of a lot easier. And then all the other assortment. The little quarter window tools, little squeegees, different size, clear crush. My favorite, the hybrid I've used for a very, very, very long time. It's been my go-to, and I've often purchased them. So it was a no-brainer for me to grab that. However, the afterburn tape. If you don't know about this stuff, you're going to appreciate having it. The big thing about it is you wrap it around the end of the heat gun or your torch if you use a gas torch, and the likelihood of you burning yourself is minimized dramatically, because obviously when you do get that heat gun cranking to 600 degrees Celsius, that as soon as you touch it, you get that iconic burger ring burn, on your arm. So one of the actual added bonuses of having quality tools like this, we get bonus things that are actually here for our safety as well. There's some blade cage style things, that knife holders, different blades. There's other bits and pieces that I'm not going to go through all of it, but make sure you log on to, and I'll put a link in the description too for Aaron, that he was nice enough to send all that stuff over. It's www.Tint Sign Wrap Tools. Let's see, and this is the exact reason I have to do it. So I will open the page now because I did have it open prior. Tint Sign Wrap Tools. Yep, so it's just tintsignwraptools.com.au. Make sure you check it out. He's got a whole bunch here, and he's put in a lot of effort, and his team put a lot of effort in, not only to bring in important source from the US, but also tools, flat glass tools, squeegees, all sorts of stuff. So check it out for yourself. Again, a big shout out for those guys sending a care package over. They even Ubered it over. We just happened to have a chat in the morning. He'd been chasing me for a bit to get a talk in, and then was nice enough to send me a care package. So yeah, much appreciated. All right. The things I need from you guys: please like, subscribe, and share. This is a brand new page in a very busy YouTube setting. I really want to get some traction with these things. We've invested a lot of time and money into creating a studio of our own, and as much as I'm time poor, I'm going to spend a lot of time making sure I push this out, and bringing you quality content. It's going to be a lot better than today. Today is one of the first ones, so, bear with me. But I also have fun doing it. It's going to be a lot more fun when I get guests in here. I'm going to get more microphones, and I need a video switcher and some other stuff, so I don't have to do it manually. But once we get all that together, it's going to be really cool. We'll make sure we have a lot of fun. So again, please like and share, subscribe on YouTube, and peace. I kind of need a sign off. We'll have to think about that. But yeah, the Aussie Trainer, and on all things Instagram, Facebook, Graham Doolan, Graham_Doolan. What else? I'll put all the links in the description. So if you do happen to see this and find it, please do share it. So again, thank you for both people that probably watch this, which would be my mum and my girlfriend. So that's a bonus. Anyone else that sees it, please share it. Share it within your network. It's kind of awkward sharing stuff on your own socials, but I'd much appreciate it. It would be really cool to have, more eyes on, and I can only get better. So welcome to the bottom of the podcast pit, and I'll work my way up. All right. Peace. I got to find that end button.